All right, let's dive in. Today, we're taking a close look at the investment case for AutoNation. You've probably seen the name. They're one of the biggest car retailers in the US. But the real story, the thing that makes them so interesting, is kind of hidden under the hood. And that really brings us to the big question, right? We're in an age of electric cars, online, everything, and a pretty uncertain economy. So, can a classic, traditional car dealership model not just hang on, but actually thrive? Let's find out. So, for our first section, we're calling it a different kind of dealer. And here's why. The secret to AutoNation's success, well, it isn't really about selling brand new cars. I know that sounds a little crazy, but it's the absolute core of our analysis here. This right here is the whole strategy. See, they've built this incredibly resilient business by focusing on the entire life of a vehicle. For them, selling you a car is just the start of the relationship. It's not the end goal. The real money, the stuff that keeps coming in year after year, comes from everything that happens next. Okay, let's move on. In Section 2, we're going to follow the money, because that's where we'll find AutoNation's true profit engine. And believe me, this is where the business model gets really, really interesting. Just look at this breakdown. It totally flips what you'd expect. The shiny new cars in the showroom? They only make up about 21% of the gross profit. The lion's share, a massive 42%, comes from parts and service. You know, the garage in the back. Then you add in finance and insurance, and suddenly you realize that almost 70% of their profits have nothing to do with that initial new car sale. This chart just drives that point home perfectly. New cars, yeah, they bring in almost half the company's money, their revenue, but they deliver a much smaller slice of the actual profit. Now look at parts and service. It's a lean, mean profit machine. It brings in 42% of the profit from just 17% of the revenue. I mean, that's just incredible efficiency. And what about this number? $2,736. That is the average gross profit AutoNation made from finance and insurance products, things like extended warranties and loan agreements, on every single car they sold in 2023. Think about that. That's pure profit that just stacks up vehicle after vehicle. It's a powerhouse. So how in the world did they build this machine? Well, this wasn't an accident. Section 3 lays out the blueprint for us. It's the result of a long, long history of making really smart, strategic moves that set them up to dominate. You can see this clear pattern on the timeline. Way back in '99, they got laser-focused on just the car business. Then in 2013, they did something pretty rare. They put all their dealerships under one single brand, AutoNation, to build a national sense of trust. They jumped on digital sales early, and then, more recently, they brought their financing in-house. Every single step was a deliberate choice to make that core business stronger and grow those high-profit services. Okay, but what about the future? Let's talk about the road ahead in Section 4. Because, let's be honest, no matter how strong a company is, it's not immune to risk. It's all about how you handle the disruption that's coming for the entire industry. So, AutoNation is really facing two big kinds of headwinds here. On one side, you've got your classic cyclical risks, recessions, high interest rates, things that can really hurt new car sales. But on the other side, you have these huge disruptive risks, the big shift to electric vehicles, which need a lot less maintenance, and the threat from companies like Tesla that sell directly to people, potentially cutting out dealers altogether. But management is definitely not just sitting around waiting for this to happen. This is their four-part game plan. They're building out their own used car superstores. They're launching mobile service vans that bring the mechanic to you. They keep growing that powerful in-house finance arm. And, crucially, they're investing in the future by partnering with companies like Waymo, so they can learn how to service the electric and self-driving cars of tomorrow. Which brings us to Section 5, the bottom line for an investor. When you weigh the strengths against the risks, what's the final verdict on AutoNation? This quote pretty much says it all. It perfectly captures how management thinks about their money. They have a very clear two-part plan. First, invest in smart ways to grow the business, like we just saw. And if those amazing opportunities aren't there, they give the cash directly back to the shareholders. And they do it through massive share buybacks. And when I say massive, I am not kidding. Over 80%. That's the percentage of its own shares that AutoNation has bought back since 1999. By taking that many of its own shares off the market, the company makes sure that every single remaining share is worth a bigger piece of the company's profits. It's an incredibly powerful way to boost returns for investors who stick around.
So when you put it all together, you get a really impressive report card for this management team, from how they run the business to their position in the market to how they use their cash. This is a team that has shown time and again that they know how to execute a winning strategy.
Now, in the investing world, we call this kind of durable advantage an economic moat. And analysts give AutoNation a narrow moat. What that means is they have a real sustainable edge thanks to their size and that trusted service business that should let them keep making great profits for at least the next 10 years. It doesn't mean they're invincible, but it's a pretty significant advantage to have.
And so that leads us to our final takeaway. AutoNation has proven it's a high-quality company. It's built on a tough, high-margin business model, and it's run by a management team that puts shareholders first. It really looks like it's built for the long haul. But you, as an investor, have to be ready for the inevitable bumps in the road that come with the car industry. So the real question is, can you handle that cyclical ride?